Let me read a quote for you here. According to the UN World Food Program, wars can trigger food shortages by destroying infrastructure and damaging food supply chains. While conflict is the #1 cause of hunger in the world, climate shocks are the second. There are different reasons, different things that cause food supply chain issues, food shortages. There are lots of things that are coming. The prices are going up, foods that are coming into high demand because the production is going down for various reasons, or they're getting harder and harder to come by. And that isn't going to change. Please, please, please start thinking about and learning how to preserve food, store food for yourself and your family. Continue to make a storage for yourself and for your family. Hey there, everybody. Happy Tuesday and welcome to another Talky Tuesday video. I'm really excited to come and talk to you today again. I'm enjoying doing these Talky Tuesday videos. Please let me know if you're enjoying them. If there's something that you would like for me to talk about, please put it in the comments. I've really been enjoying reading what you all have shared, and I've been enjoying reading some of your ideas. I've been implementing them in my garden and in my talks, and I'd love to keep doing so. So please let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't done so already, please make sure to like and subscribe to my videos. It really helps me out, gets the word out, shares my videos, and this is information that I want people to know, that I think it's important for people to know. So please make sure that you like my videos and that you share them and that you comment as well. The topic of today's video is food storage options and what is best for you and what things you need to know. So I think that there are a lot of different options as far as food storage goes, and we've heard of some of them, but others of them might not be quite as familiar to us. However, they're still really good options, and they might be just right for you. So let's get into them. Before we talk about the different types of food storage options that are out there, we should probably first talk about why people store food. What's the reason? What's the purpose for storing food? I think that there are a lot of good reasons to store food. I think that it's something that previous generations have done. And with the modern age, we've gotten away from it because now we have things like refrigeration, and we have stores that have food that actually store them for us, so we don't have to do it at home, right? The word store is literally, the word means a place that holds something for an extended period of time. And we just go to that storage facility and pick up what we need, take it home, and then prepare it. But the concept of food storage in the individual household or for individuals isn't something new. It's actually something that we've gotten away from and that we've kind of outsourced to others. But I think it's really important for us to bring that practice back into our own space. Our grandparents were very well versed in storing food for themselves in times of need. They stored the extra that they had grown so that they would have it for later seasons because they couldn't use all of the food at one time. They also stored up for future events in case there was a need, in case there was a calamity, in case there was a crisis. They would have the food that they needed to meet or to provide for them during that time. So I can think of several reasons that people store food. Some people store food for challenging seasons that might be upcoming, maybe personal seasons. Maybe someone is pregnant and they're going to be giving birth soon, and so they start to store food. They start to cook a lot of food or get food prepared for them, and they store it away. Often people do this, right? When they have a friend who's pregnant or when they themselves are pregnant, they'll start to store food, bake food, cook all kinds of foods and freeze them. And then that person can take that food out after the baby's been born and they don't have to go through a lot of work. That's actually basic food storage. So maybe a challenging season in a personal life is one reason people might store food. Another reason that a person might store food is for times of crisis or challenge, either nationally or globally. We don't know that there is a challenge generally until it's upon us. We can see the signs that tell us that something is coming, but often people aren't preparing for that. Times of crisis and emergency aren't the time to start preparing or the time to start gathering food. At that point, you need the resources, and that's generally when people find that they don't have the things that they need. So storing up, particularly food, for times of crisis, nationally or globally, is a really important step to take, especially in our current time. I think it's pivotal. It's vital to start storing up food for times ahead. Another great reason to store food that I have not seen a lot of people talk about, but I've seen people do and that I personally do is to store food when you catch a really good sale. That is one of the best times to buy and preserve, or to buy the food that is already preserved and to store it up for the future. So this is the category that I want to start out talking about. The things that you can buy from the store and that you can either preserve or just put in your storage supplies for future use. You can buy dry goods such as flour, rice, beans, grains like oatmeal or grits. You can store dry goods in airtight containers and they will keep for years, many years. We have large tubs with beans and also large tubs with rice. Those items are for future use in case of emergency. They're great sources of protein, they're great sources of grain, and they're something that's really easy to buy at the grocery store. Every time you go, you can just grab an extra bag of pinto beans or garbanzo beans or Great Northern beans, whatever you like. An extra bag here or there is really easy to shop for. You're not like disaster shopping. You're just throwing an extra bag in when you grocery shop, or an extra bag of rice in when you grocery shop. These are wonderful. Over time, you can store those up, seal them away, put them away in your basement or in another storage area, and you have them in times of emergency. Something else that I like to buy is canned meat. Now, hear me out. I'm not a massive fan of canned meat, but I actually eat tuna quite regularly, and that's canned meat, right? There's also canned chicken, which is pretty tasty. Then we move into the category of things like Spam and corned beef. All of these are actually excellent sources of protein, which is what you would need in an emergency situation. That's why we build food stores. Those are great sources of protein. They're already canned for you, they're shelf stable, and they will last for years. So I highly recommend buying pre-canned fish, chicken, corned beef, and Spam. I know that canned fruits and vegetables aren't a favorite, but I do think that it's important to have those for the nutrients that they provide. Canned vegetables, yes, they do have some sodium, but you can buy a low sodium option. You can also buy canned fruits that will have some nutrients for you, and that's better than no fruits or vegetables if you're in an emergency situation. So I highly recommend also buying canned fruits and canned vegetables. And when I say canned, they can also be in a glass jar. They don't just have to be in an aluminum can. Let's talk about fresh things that you can buy from the grocery store to preserve for later. So you can buy meat that's on sale at a good price. You can buy fresh fruits and vegetables that are on sale at a good price. And if you learn how to can or preserve those things, you can then have those lower priced items as a form of stored foods that you can use for the future. So don't sleep on this idea. We have bought chicken thighs, chicken legs when they're on sale for 99 cents, because they're usually $1.99. But if you can get them on sale for 99 cents, you can store them for future use. And not only in the freezer, but you can actually learn to can them and preserve them for future use as well. Remember that the goal of preserving food is so that you can have them around for long-term use in the future. You're not trying to eat them up right away. These are things that you don't need right now, but that you're saving for the future so that you can have them in the event of an emergency, in the event of a food shortage, in the event that you can't get out to the store. It's good to have food laid by in store, right? Stored for your future use. So now that we've talked about the different types of things that you can store, let's talk about different methods, different ways that we can store food so that we can have it for use in the future. There are several different methods of food storage that people use. There are about 5 of them that I'm going to talk about today. I've used almost all of them. One of them I haven't used yet, but I hope to soon. So there's canning, freezing, dehydrating, vacuum sealing, and freeze drying. In my family, we've done all of the first 4. We have done canning, we've done freezing, dehydrating, and vacuum sealing of our foods. We have not done freeze drying yet because we don't have a freeze drying machine yet, but that is on our list of things that we do want to buy in the future. Canning is a process. It takes work to learn, but everything takes work to learn. So don't be daunted when you hear about this concept. You might think about these old-fashioned folks, or you might think about communities like maybe the Amish community or different folks like that who do canning, but it's not something that you can't do. It's not something that's really difficult and that's outside of your reach. There are a lot of great resources. There are a lot of great books. We bought a book immediately when we started planning on canning. We researched online, we joined some groups. This is the same advice that I give you in every video, every Talkie Tuesday video, right? Join groups, do research, look for books, find the resources that will teach you. So we joined a canning group, we got a few mentors, and we followed the guidelines on how to can properly. Canning is a lost art, but I promise you it's only 1 or 2 generations removed from us. We can learn to do it. My family has canned plenty of fruits and vegetables. We have canned vegetables from our garden, such as collard greens and carrots. We've canned potatoes. We've even canned meat that we've gotten from the store. The options with canning are endless. You just have to learn it, respect it as a science, as a craft, figure out how to do it effectively. Don't be afraid to get mentors. Don't be afraid to ask questions. But this skill is going to pay back in droves. You will not regret learning how to can. In our household, Eric does the canning and I do the gardening, and he cans the things that we have excess of. Actually, he does pretty much all of the preserving that we have excess of, while I do the production of those items. Another strategy of food preservation that you're already probably pretty familiar with is freezing, right? We tend to, in my family, we would tend to buy frozen vegetables when we were buying a lot of our vegetables. We buy frozen because they'll last longer, right? We're not going to eat up all of the peas that we buy if we buy a large bag of fresh peas, but frozen peas will last a long time. So freezing vegetables is an excellent way to preserve them for long-term use. You've got a good 6 months then to eat those frozen vegetables, and they're fresh frozen, right? So you've locked in the nutrients when you're freezing those vegetables, and it's so good to eat vegetables that are full of all of the nutrients and goodness. While I do like the method of freezing food, I think one of the problems with that food storage method is that it relies upon electricity in order for the food to remain stored. So if you lose power, that food will run the risk of thawing out and spoiling. This is one of the reasons that we really try to learn a lot about canning foods like vegetables and meat and fruit, because if you can them, they're going to be stable and they're going to survive a power outage. You don't run the risk of them spoiling if you don't have a space to keep them that is cold, like a freezer. A couple of years ago, we bought a dehydrator, and that dehydrator has served us very well for doing things like drying fruits, drying some vegetables like carrots. We've dried potatoes that we then rehydrated to put in soups or in casseroles. You would just slice up those fruits and vegetables, and then you would put them on the dehydrating racks, plug it in, and leave it to sit, and it will do the work for you. It sucks all of the moisture out of, or not all, but most of the moisture out of those items, and you're left with a dry and crisp item that you can then store. We tend to store our dehydrated items in jars. We've dried tomatoes that way, apples, we've dried strawberries that way. You can dry lots of things and then store them in jars, and then you can take them out and put them in salads or cook with them further on down the road. So dehydration is an excellent strategy to preserve food so that you can have it for long-term use. Vacuum sealing is another kind of fun way to preserve food that you can store for long-term use. So we have vacuum sealed different types of foods. Most recently, we've been vacuum sealing the extra fruits and vegetables that we have that we don't want to eat right away. So Eric would actually chop them up and then vacuum seal okra or squash and put it in the freezer. So we were able to preserve those for long-term use. We've also vacuum sealed rice and other grains, beans, and preserved them in big tubs stacked on top of one another so that we can have them for the future. Vacuum sealing involves using a plastic package that's pre-made and sucking the air out of it. So you do need a machine to do vacuum sealing. You suck the air out, and then you seal the ends of it, and then you take those items and you store them. The last method of food storage that I'm going to talk about is freeze drying. And when you freeze dry foods, you put them in a machine, a freeze drying machine laid out on sheets, and that machine sucks out all of the moisture from that particular food item. It takes a while. It can take hours, or I've seen people even do it up to a day. And the next day they come back and the food is completely dry. I don't know if you've seen a lot of people these days selling freeze-dried Skittles. Like that's a thing right now. Freeze drying pulls the moisture out and allows the food to be preserved. Some people I've even heard say up to 25 to 30 years. I have not tried that yet because I don't have a freeze dryer. I don't know that I would wait that long to eat my foods, but it's great to have a system, a method that is really trustworthy and that protects the food. The reason is because you remove all the moisture and the potential for bacteria to grow and cause the food to spoil. So if I could tell you anything to take away, I would say remember that you don't have to be growing food in order to store it. You can buy food from the store and you can store that food in your own space so that you have it for the future. You can buy food and then preserve that food. Fresh foods like meats, vegetables, and fruits. Just be very intentional about learning the proper methods of canning because it can be harmful if you don't can properly. And if you do have a garden, you can store the things that you grow. You can can them, you can freeze them, you can preserve them by freeze drying or by dehydrating. You can also vacuum seal them. There are lots of different ways to protect and preserve the food that you have. Let me read a quote for you here. According to the UN World Food Program, wars can trigger food shortages by destroying infrastructure and damaging food supply chains. While conflict is the #1 cause of hunger in the world, climate shocks are the second. There are different reasons, different things that cause food supply chain issues, food shortages. You all have probably been very aware of the high prices of eggs lately. I know that the prices of butter are going up. By the way, we have a video on how to make butter. I'll put it up here so you can check that out. There are lots of things that are coming. The prices are going up, foods that are coming into high demand because the production is going down for various reasons, or they're getting harder and harder to come by. And that isn't going to change. I'm not a doom and gloom person. I'm not a person that says, oh, everything's going to be terrible and the sky is falling. But I am saying that I think we're coming into a season where we will need to have the things that we need on hand. Please, please, please start thinking about and learning how to preserve food, store food for yourself and your family. You don't have to start big. You don't have to buy a freeze dryer, but go ahead and buy things that are already at the store. Buy an extra can of vegetables when you go to the store. Buy an extra bag of beans when you go to the store. Buy an extra bag of rice when you go to the store. Put them to the side. Put them in a place where you're not going to use them. As the year goes by, if you find that a full year has gone by and you haven't used them, then go ahead and use that and buy another set, right? Continue to make a storage for yourself and for your family. Storing food now is the way to go. You will have insurance for the future. You can be sure that you're prepared. Please pay attention to what you see around you and make your decisions accordingly. I think that we have a lot of opportunity right now to go and get things from the store and build up our own supply for ourselves and for our loved ones. I appreciate you all so much. I want to say thank you for watching my videos. I am so glad that we're building a faithful community here of friends and family who are coming together, sharing tips, learning from one another. I appreciate y'all. I would love for you to subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and to like my video, and please comment, give me your thoughts, give me your ideas. I'm really open to hearing ideas for what you would like to see next and what you might want to know about that I haven't discussed. Also, please check out my vlog videos if you haven't seen those yet. I have lots of videos, weekly videos on vlogs that I do, generally on the weekends, but not always, that show you the progress in my garden and what's going on here in our household. And I would love for you to check us out and get to know us better. I appreciate you, and I'll see you later. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.